Aloha. For my next Saturday event back home here, I'm on Ala Moana Boulevard, right in front of Restaurant Row, and I've got a special guest here. Who are you, and what are we up to?
My name's Ronnie Bartenstein. I'm the Community Engagement Specialist at Hawaii Food Bank, and we're at Food Drive. And all the nice cars are here. We're at Food Drive Day, so it's 6 sites across Oahu. There's 3 sites on Maui, 8 sites on Big Island, and we're really just here to collect monetary and food donations from our community.
This is kind of cool. Right when we started this, we actually got all of the great cars coming by. So
it's a car club that's coming to donate.
So for those that don't know a whole bunch about the food bank, can you just tell us a little bit about the history? Where's it? Where do you enter into the kind of helping people?
Yeah, so Hawaii Food Bank opened in 1983, and then our main thing is just making sure that people who are struggling with food insecurity have access to food. So we're kind of the hub where people will donate money and food to us, and we can purchase food. And then we have 200 plus agency partners across the state, so that could be like churches, food pantries, things like that we work with and get them the food so they can get it out to community.
So you're the intake, right? You're bringing the food in, and then you've got all of these partners that get the food where. And who are these partners? What are they? Are they like other nonprofits or churches?
That's exactly right. Other nonprofits, churches, and then soup kitchens, domestic abuse centers, anything like that.
Do you have any sense of what the estimate is about how many people in Hawaii actually are food insecure? I mean, it's more than most people think.
It is a lot. So right now, 1 in 3 households in the state are food insecure. So the need is really high, and as we all know, the increase of food prices and just costs, especially here in Hawaii, make it harder for people to put food on the table.
Do you get assistance at the food bank from government partners?
Yes, we get a lot of assistance. The state works with us all the time, and we're able to do events like this where we get support from our partners, as well as you guys do a coalition throughout the year for, I think, about a 3-month period that brings in so many pounds of food and so much money.
It was actually a leading question because I know that our federal government does help out directly and indirectly the food bank and other agencies that are trying to handle food insecurity across our country. I work on that, so I knew what the answer was before you said.
Perfect.
Okay. How'd you get into this?
So my mom actually is a director at the food bank. She works with our agency partners. She's in charge of all of them. So she's been at the food bank for more than 15 years and has only worked at nonprofits her whole life. So I've kind of just had that role model of what it means to serve your community growing up. So when I had the opportunity to come to the food bank and kind of work alongside her at the end of her career and help people, I decided to do that.
Yeah. Tell me, we were having a conversation earlier about people, of course, can contribute, cash. They can contribute online, and maybe just summarize that conversation we had about, donating excess food versus, donating cash, and where people can be kind of the most effective with, if they want to give.
Yeah. So food donations. A great rule of thumb we like to have is if you're gonna do food donations, we want people to bring it from their house. Like if you have stuff in the back of your cupboard that you're not using, that's good things to bring and donate as food. But if you're gonna go to the store to buy food to give to us, it makes a lot more sense to just use that money and donate it directly to us, because we're partners with Feeding America, which is the nationwide network of food banks. So we can purchase at 1/5 retail.
Right.
So we can just get so much more.
Yeah. So the example you were telling me was, let's say that you went to the store and you bought some food for $2, and you brought it down here and donated $2 worth of food. If you had a cash contribution of $12, you could actually deliver the same amount of food because you guys can buy it that kind of a discount.
Yeah, and a good way to help people conceptualize right now is that like $10 donation can provide food for 20 meals. That's like a way that is very visceral for people. Like $10, that's 20 meals we can provide to the community.
How can people get to you to check out what you're doing and to help out if they want?
Yeah, so that'll be hawaiifoodbank.org. That's the best way, because if you want to get involved for volunteering, you want to see what we've been up to lately, look at who our leadership is, or if you want to make monetary donations or just learn about us, that's the place to go.
I am just really surprised because once, I mean, this interview has been going, this interview has been going on for about 5 minutes, 7 minutes, and look at all the cars we attracted just by standing here.
Now they're
this
all
is
ready
pretty
to
awesome.
come and donate.
Okay.
I'd love to see that.
Hey, thanks for all your great work.
No, thank you for coming.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks.
Got some beer.
Oh, not really? Oh, I'll take that.
Take it, take.
Oh, sorry.
Did you want me to get them for you, sir?
I can get it.
Okay.
I'll get it. Here, I give it to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think so.
Get it. Oh, wow. Oh, you get good stuff.
Yeah,
Oh, Vienna sausage.
Yeah, we have some
Oh, wow.
from a couple of my friends. That
Oh,
really make it all the
wow.
way.
That looks good, yeah? Huh? You can take a little bit. Thank you. Okay, I get this. You want her to go up there, or she's up there already?
You two go there now.
Oh, I see.
The
I
lady,
see.
but you go now, yeah, you cannot take over now, yeah?
Oh,
The lady, the skyline. The skyline.
skyline.
Yeah, the skyline, the lady, the,
Oh. You. Over here. Good to see you.
to see you.
Good to see you. How's it going? You think you're getting any results here?
Yeah, they come in slowly. That car club was a big.
Yeah, the car club. Right when I was starting to talk story a little bit, and then all of a sudden everybody came in. I thought maybe I had something to do with it.
Maybe.
The car club comes every year.
Yeah. So it didn't have anything to do with me. I don't know what it is.
Oh, okay, let's take it up
it's,
here.
It's heavy though.
Okay. Boxes. Wow. Thank you. Oh, yep. I was gonna throw
Yeah, check them out. Yeah.
these.
What's that? You got some.
English one, down there.
What about this?
One.
We'll take
No.
these over to the
This one,
counter.
okay.
Take this.
Oh wait, I want this
That
one.
one there.
Oh, you look too young for that.
I'm retired. Thank you.
Okay.
Good politician.
All right.
They want to build the houses they want to
Probably for Jack, because he seemed to have figured out how to untangle it.
Hello. Why you had me confused with Dan Cook.
Oh, no, you're good looking.
Well, he's good looking, so I take that as a compliment. No, everybody confuses me with Dan Cook. I don't think I look like Dan Cook, Yeah, I mean, yeah. Is he? Dan Cook? No, you're thinking of Dashevsky.
Oh, hello. Yes,
Okay, now we're all confused. Dan Cook is Washington. I'll do something, or like when I'm back in the district doing these kinds of events, I do it and I put it on, just so people know what I'm up to. So sometimes they flip out, they see this thing on my thing, but. Huh? I live in Kaneohe. Yeah. Yeah, I lived in Manoa for a long time, and then I've lived in Kaneohe. I've actually lived in Kaneohe for a long time also, so yeah.
I get messages from your office.
Oh.
The town called in for town hall, but it was canceled this Tuesday because of the.
Did you get the message from me that said it was canceled and there was an alert? How many did you get from me, by the way? Did you get just one message?
It was canceled.
Yeah, the one, just one.
Just one.
Somebody wrote me, they were upset at me, and they said that I called them 5 times. And I went, I don't think so. So that's why Yeah, I only called once, so I don't know. I thought maybe there's some weird thing that happened with the phones, but anyway, I'm glad you only got one.
I got one.
Because I was like going to flip out if there were 5 calls to people, like, especially in the middle of a tsunami warning. So. See you again. How's that? Hello. Where'd you get that? Oh, that looks good, yeah?
Over there.
Really?
Really
Pretty
good,
popular. Wow.
Make sure everything's brown.
Yeah. Hope I didn't mess you up on the count. Okay. How's that? How you doing? Yeah. Thank you. Oh, that looks good. Defect.
No, last one from the last batch.
Oh.
We didn't quite make.
Oh, I see.
We're begging for.
Wow, I feel useful here.
Yeah, we're begging
I'm ready,
for
huh? They put me to work. Here I did. I walked around, talked story, and everybody
Yeah.
got me to work.
Top story and work
Yeah,
at the
yeah,
same time.
yeah. How many years you been doing this?
My second year.
Oh, second year. Oh,
Yeah,
so
but
you're
these
like
are-
you're like an apprentice.
Yes, I am.
Yeah. Like who's the real pro here?
Oh, he is.
He is over there?
Yeah.
I know. I think oh, look at him. Look at him. He's poking it to see
If it's done.
what the consistency is.
No, whether or not, like when you bake. and
Oh, then it sticks on it?
Yeah.
Oh,
if
look
the
at him.
batter
Oh, that's a master at work. Oh,
Yep.
wow. Okay, he gave the
Yep.
okay.
is- Yep. So the batter's coming
Okay.
out.
All right. I'm starting with this one? Or is this one power ready?
No, I gotta add.
Add
2 more.
Add 2. Okay.
And I use a
Okay, go for it.
I'm gonna grab one and then count 4.
Oop.
3. So as long as there's 4 in the bag,
Uh-huh.
okay,
Okay.
you can put it in this bag.
This one. Okay. Oh man, that smells good. Oh. Four. Oh man, that smells good. 1, 2, 3. Kind of easier, huh, to just go with your hands. Yeah. Hey, how's it? Ed Case, Congress. How are you? Nice to see you. Aloha. How are you? How's that? Good? Yeah. Tasty, huh? What did you have? You had I know you had shave ice. So you had underdog, shave ice, and one other, I think. Okay, cool. Good job. We're at the Waipahu Soto Zen Temple for Obon. Beautiful, beautiful evening here in Waipahu, and I'm here with a special guest. And who are you, and what do you do?
My name is Shuji Komagata. I'm the bishop of the Hawai'i Soto Mission, the organization that this temple belongs to.
I see. How many Soto temples
There
are
are
there?
nine temples throughout the state.
Right.
And there are 4 on the island here.
I see.
And we have Bon dances at our 4 temples here in the month of July and August.
Yeah. And for those that don't know, what is the significance of Obon season and the festival here?
Well, in Japan, it's in July, mid-July and mid-August that they have the Bon season. and it's a time that there's services at the temple to welcome back our deceased loved ones. And after prayer, we dance in celebration and a reunion with our departed loved ones, and that's why we have the Bon dance. But here in Hawaii, with so many temples, everybody wants to do Bon dance. It starts from beginning of June all the way through September.
Well, we have a lot, and so we've got to spread them out. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to do every single one on one weekend.
No, and people from Japan come to Hawaii and they're amazed at what we do here. This is something that's you don't see quite as often in Japan anymore.
Yeah, my son actually lived in Japan for 6 years.
Okay.
And that's exactly what he said. He said when he grew up here going to Obon, and so he embraced that and was part of that. But when he lived in Japan, he went to look for it and he couldn't find the same thing.
You can't find it in Japan.
Well, we maintain many of the traditions here
Absolutely.
In Hawaii from the old days, right? I mean, Japanese have been here in large numbers since 1885, I think, was when the actual immigration.
And what's beautiful is that it's not only the Japanese community that gets together, but it's something that's become now a Hawaii tradition.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the other thing that I watch, because I've been coming to Bon dances for a long time, is I also, if you go back 30 years, I don't remember the next generation being quite as involved, and then all of a sudden you have like all of the teenagers and the younger people, and so that's really exciting.
Yeah, that's what we want to see. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Aloha. I'm going to have to back up just a little bit. I will
Just trying to find my corner.
Yeah, no. I don't want to run you over. And we're leading it not just because we're, pie in the sky, people that care about, whether our animals fry and our sea levels rise. It's because it's good for us to diversify away from fossil fuels that cost a lot of money to bring here. So this is good for us. This administration has taken a number of actions. And so for me personally, just having, lived long enough to watch this happen, to go from nothing when it was just the first building in Kapolei being built there to what we have today, and to walk around the streets of Kapolei and see the businesses and to see this come together as a vibrant business community, as a personal community, as a home, has been really quite gratifying to me. I actually, back in those days, wrote out those original CC&Rs and master plans on longhand on legal pads, so that's where we were technologically at this point. And I always wish I had saved those for history. I don't know where they went, but anyway, so it's been a long and fruitful time with Kapolei, and of course I have represented Kapolei directly in the United States House of Representatives now for 7 years. This is my 7th year, and I actually had a piece of Kapolei when I was representing the 2nd Congressional District back in the early 2000s, because the boundary line between the 1st and 2nd fluctuates in Kapolei. That's where they make the adjustments for population. So I've, for example, I had Ko'olina the last time, and now I don't have it anymore, and they still think I have it, and so I'm happy to serve them. So it's really great to spend a little bit of time with you. I'm going to deviate just slightly from the question. We'll get to the question, because I think it's always important for me to tell you a little bit about my office and how you can use my office. I am your representative. I represent 720,000 people throughout my district. And I think about my mission, if I can put it that way. We should all have a mission statement. And I have a mission statement. And there's 3 parts to my mission statement. The first part of my mission statement is representing you in the decisions for our country, my vote in Congress, my work in committees, my work with my colleagues to try to make the right decisions for our country, whether they do or don't affect Hawaii directly. Those are my obligations under our Constitution, if you want to put it that way. Now, obviously, they all affect Hawaii in one way or the other, but that's my obligation to the country. The second part of my mission is, how do I use my office, my positions, my committees, my abilities, whatever you might say, my relationships, to help our Hawaii with our issues? What are our unique issues? What are our special issues? And how can our federal government help us with those? Now, this comes into play especially during a crisis. And I've had 3 crises. We've all had 3 crises in the last few years. So this is been quite a time for crises. So we had Red Hill. Well, first of all, we had COVID, which we all had to navigate. That took billions of dollars of federal assistance to Hawaii to pull us through COVID. Then we had Red Hill. That took billions of dollars of federal assistance to pull us through Red Hill. And finally, we have had Maui, the Maui wildfires, and that's now up in excess of 1 billion. 1 billion as well. I hope you heard me in the back after all of that. Yeah, okay, cool. I love looking at you in the back, by the way. The view behind you is spectacular. So that's the second part of my job. And then the third part of my job, which I really want you to focus on as well, is what we call individual services, which is my obligation to help you with your issues. We all have an interaction with our federal government. We all have, issues, for example, with Social Security. I see our veterans represented here. Our veterans need help. We have 120,000 veterans in our state. They need help with their benefits. Medicare, taxes, immigration is a big part of that. These are areas where our federal government impacts us all. But it doesn't really have to just be those issues. It could be as simple as, and I think I've probably helped a few of you, for example, with imports of goods from overseas where you can't get an answer from your federal government over some shipment that's held up somewhere. Now it could be as simple as, why wasn't my trash picked up this morning? I don't do trash, but I can at least get you to the right person. So those are the three parts of my job, my mission. And every single day, my staff and I are working through all of those issues in one way, shape, or form. And so the tariff rates that he has now imposed on goods coming in from other countries are the highest in a century. So we're going way, way back. And also, the tariffs are not being imposed in a reasonable way. For example, I believe that tariffs are part of our national security. So if a country is going to be out there trying to trash us in the world, then I don't believe that we should cut them a break on trade into our country, the largest market in the world. But if a country like Japan or Korea or Europe, our friends, our allies, our partners, are trading fairly with us, I believe we should do that. And so therefore, when we impose a 37% tariff on a country like Switzerland, for example, or a country like Japan before they negotiated, that's wrong. And so I don't like the tariff policy at all. And furthermore, one of the problems with the tariff policy is, and this points to one of our macro problems right now, is that Congress is supposed to be setting the rules on tariffs. It's our kuleana. Under the Constitution, by the way, this is not some law. Constitution says Congress regulates commerce. And the president has basically said, screw that. I don't really care about that stuff. And you, Congress, you do what I want you to do. And unfortunately, my Republican colleagues in Congress, who are in the majority, have decided that he can go ahead and do that. So we have a very difficult situation right now. One of the largest drivers of our cost of living is the cost of shipping our goods here. That's because we have a monopoly. More accurately, a duopoly, because we have two shippers. And they control the market. And they charge monopolistic rates. They have no competition. There's plenty of international shipping out there. There's plenty of shipping from friendly countries like Japan and Korea that would be happy to come in here and help us out with our trade back and forth between here and San Francisco and San Diego and Seattle, et cetera, Long Beach. Calculations by some organizations, including the Grassroots Institute, which does it right here in Hawaii, are that we pay probably a premium of about 15% on a lot of our goods that are coming in. That's directly attributable to the difference between what the current monopoly charges and what could be charged in a truly competitive environment where we had more ships competing. This is all driven by a federal law called the Jones Act. And I've been trying to say that the Jones Act, which arguably has some good purposes for the country, but when you apply it to a captive market like Hawaii, where you have to use shipping, you don't have the option of trucking and airplanes and barges and all this other stuff. That doesn't work for a place like Hawaii, and by the way, Guam, Saipan, Puerto Rico, Virgin Islands, Samoa. And so I've basically said, let's change the Jones Act as it applies to us here. Very, very strong political opponents on this. I've made a lot of very strong enemies by saying what I'm saying to you. And they're after me every single election, and they're after me this election all over again. You can, obviously they all have something to do with Mattson or Pesha or those others. But I believe it's the right thing to talk about, and I believe that you should care about the Jones Act. And if you want to pick off one thing that we can do for the cost of living, that's it. I understand a lot more than I used to about national defense and what it's going to take, what the threats are, and what it's going to take for us to meet the geopolitical challenges of our time, i.e. the PRC. Hawaii is central to that. So we need to try to find a way to continue our military presence here in a way that is responsible and benefits both of us. And this is good not just for our military, this is also good for our economics, because our military is our second largest contributor to our economy. The Medicaid cuts and the SNAP cuts in the reconciliation bill, note that I don't call it the big beautiful bill. I also don't call it the big ugly bill like my Democratic colleagues do. Forget that stuff, the reconciliation bill. That is one of those areas that cuts the most deep and the most broad in that law. Because what it does is to risk basic health care for tens of millions of Americans. Here in Hawaii, we have some in the range of 30% or so of our own fellow ohana who rely on Medicaid Quest for their basic health care, because they're not employed, they're part-time employed, so they don't qualify for the employer mandate, for whatever the reason is. They're retirees, blah, blah, blah. That's their only safety net for healthcare. And that's true throughout the rest of the country. And so there's a huge number of Americans who depend on this basic safety net. And I'm not going to say it doesn't need to be reformed. I think any big federal program needs to be looked at and reformed. For example, this started as trying to think through, should we initiate more stringent work requirements for Medicaid? So in other words, if you can obviously work and you choose not to work, and then you ask for Medicaid because your income is too low, is that fair? No, I don't think it is fair. It's not fair to the rest of us. And it disincentivizes people to work because we are rewarding them for not doing that. We're saying, okay, well, fine, if you're not going to work, we'll take care of your health care, we'll take care of your housing, we'll take care of this. Well, that's not my political philosophy. But if somebody needs help, then I believe we should try to help collectively. And so I'm not going to say everything about the Medicaid debate is bad, but where it came out in this bill is really bad. And so that will cause a reduction in federal assistance for Medicaid, which will force the state of Hawaii to either not cover people that are no longer on the Medicaid rolls, with pretty disastrous consequences to them and probably to our society. So think things like far more homeless on the streets, think things like far more stress on our community organizations. The model of the Federal Reserve, which fundamentally controls the money supply, I think is the right model. And the Federal Reserve's mission is, and has been for a long time, to control inflation and try to maximize employment. That's their mission. And they utilize their control over how much money is in our system to do that. And if there's way too much money in our system chasing way too few products, as happened in the middle of COVID, that's not going to be good because inflation goes up. If the money supply is too constrained, then inflation may be way down, but employment is going to be way down. And so the Federal Reserve tries to keep them in balance. Now, there are tremendous political pressures on the Federal Reserve to do what voters want, because what voters want is no interest and full employment. And so therefore, somebody like the president attacks the Federal Reserve because they're not doing what he wants. And we set the Federal Reserve up to be politically independent so they could make these decisions for themselves to resist the political pressure that every president does to them, Republican or Democrat, every Congress does in one way, shape, or form. We set them up to be independent. And so I don't support the attacks, the personal attacks on a person that I actually think is doing a pretty good job. I think if we didn't have the Federal Reserve, for example, kind of handling the post-COVID era, we wouldn't have seen inflation drop. This is one example.
Issue very well. If there's such a thing, who communicates it politically. The average everyday person, like what you're saying, has other things that they. How do you still then sort of address that issue? Because housing is I'm using housing as an example because that's a big issue.
An intense world traveler. He loves to learn about other people and cultures and places. But he cares so much about Hawaii and conservation. I mean, we are really, really lucky to have Congressman Ed Case in Congress in the conservation world, Maka and Makai. He really knows his stuff. He's very, very confident and very focused on solutions. And that's about all I can say. I could say a lot of other stuff, but I won't. All right, Congressman Ed Case.
Aloha. When I'm home like this, we usually film what I'm doing and we put it on Olelo. So that's the reason for this. So we try to let people know what I'm up to, and that's the reason for the intrusive camera right here. Thank you. I got introduced by one of my favorite people, who has been such an incredible leader in conservation, made her life around it actually. And as she pointed out, we grew up in a very interesting environment in Hilo. Our parents were avid outdoors people, and they believed in getting us out into the outdoors, and we experienced everything about the outdoors. We would routinely abandon school and go watch the volcano or live down by the beach for a couple of weeks, which we were lucky enough to do. And so we both grew up with a love of the outdoors and both made it a career in one way or another, her more directly than me. So you're lucky to have a great teacher. My path was coming out of college on the East Coast and not wanting to grow up. And so what I did was I killed some time by going to Washington, D.C. for a summer internship, which was all it was supposed to be. And here I am all those years later in Congress. I am a lawyer by profession. I've had a full career in law, which has, by the way, helped me a lot in politics. And so anybody that says to you that lawyers and politics don't mix, I don't know what planet they're coming from. I went into politics in about my mid-30s. I am actually in my home district here, so this is coming home. I represented Manoa Valley for 8 years in the state legislature, State House of Representatives. Before that, I was Manoa Neighborhood Board chair right here. And so I lived here in Manoa for 20 years, and as you know, anybody that lives here, this is a very strong conservation district, also believe very much in supporting our outdoors. So it was a great constituency to represent. What this administration is doing falls into a couple of categories. First of all, they are refusing to spend money that Congress directed by law and the president signed. They are refusing to spend that money. And they are claiming that they have the right to basically what we call line item veto. So line item veto is something we're familiar with here in Hawaii because the governor here in Hawaii does actually have the power to decline under certain circumstances to fund a particular line item to this particular program, which is why it's called a line item. Presidents don't really have that power. They're supposed to spend the money. Nonetheless, this president has decided to refused to spend that money. Been the subject of lawsuits. It's undecided still whether and to what extent the president has the power. For example, take the U.S. Agency for International Development, which does a lot of environmental work around the world, development assistance. The president came in and said, I'm going to abolish the USAID and I'm not going to fund them anymore. And that was the subject of a lawsuit, which is actually unresolved. However, as a functional matter, USAID doesn't exist today in our world, and neither do the programs, neither do the environmental assistance. He has also done this to environmental programs that we care about. One of them, for example, and I'm staying on oceans because I tend to focus a little bit more on oceans, but we can talk about land, air, etc. He has declined to fund many of the programs of NOAA, National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration. Open to question whether, legal question, whether he has the right to do that. In addition to doing that for monies that have already been appropriated and already been expended, he is doing two other things. The first is called rescission. Rescission means that you actually legally come back to Congress and say, oh, you appropriated this money and we signed it into law, but by the way, we don't want to do that anymore. So you pass a law, Congress, that rescinds the money, and the president signs that law. Totally legal, right? We passed the law, we get to reverse it. And we just had a big rescissions package, which unfortunately my colleagues in Congress agreed to, which basically gutted and took back money from a lot of our foreign assistance and some of our environmental programs. This is for monies that have already been funded, already been appropriated. We also, though, of course, are in an ongoing cycle of appropriations. And so we are now working, as we speak, on the next fiscal year 2026, which starts on October 1st. We are, what, one month and 10 days away. We haven't passed our appropriations for the year. And the president gets to submit a budget to Congress, which is not binding. It's just the president saying, hey, this is kind of what I want. However, this particular Congress, which of course has a Republican majority, which is very closely aligned with the president, has basically gone along with much of what he wanted. And in so many words, the president's budget increases defense spending and decreases everything else. We're having this debate around the context of our state leases because a lot of the military lands are state lands leased to the military. Those leases are coming up for expiration in just a few years now. So it's a good time for us to have this discussion. Now the military wants to be a good neighbor. And they realize that one of our priorities is the protection of our environment. And they also, by the way, I don't know if I would have said this about the military 20 years ago, but they definitely understand today that a solid environment in and around and among their activities is critical to their own ability to provide for what they need in the national defense. And so we find incredible opportunities here for environmental protection from an unlikely source, because most people don't think of the military as being environmentally friendly. And yet they are, whether it's because they believe it as a practical matter or because as a practical matter they understand that this is a need that they can provide. So you'd be surprised with some of the stuff the military does. They operate major programs that have resulted in the protection of lands adjacent to military training areas because the military wants a buffer zone around their training areas. They also want to take care of those lands, and they understand we want to take care of them. The military, for example, also offers the protection of some very endangered species. So they operate some of the most advanced endangered species protection programs at places like Pohakuloa, which they should do because they're using that environment on the Big Island with many endangered species, and they should take care of that when they're doing it. But the point I'm trying to make is, when you're in a crisis, you want to take your opportunities wherever you can find them. And you want to do that anyway, but especially when you're at a time like this. So my job is to work with all of my fellow stakeholders to make sure that we understand what those programs are, what they might be, where we might change the law, because again, Congress does the laws, right? So I have the right to introduce laws and to try to push them. I have the right to get them administered properly and the right to try to fund them. So anyway, I'm going to stop. Well, that's fine. Then you can have a Saving Our Planet discussion with them. But if your recipient is a West Virginia coal miner who you're asking to become unemployed and to take a chance on another industry when they've done that for 10 generations straight, then they ain't going to care much about, quote unquote, saving the planet. They're worried about their family, their job. And how do you communicate with that person that it's important to do this? And so you get the point. I think our environmental communities are way too preachy sometimes. You know, we're all used to talking to each other, so it doesn't bother us. But don't forget, this is as siloed a community as any other community in our country. And sometimes you've got to like break your silo and think about who is it that you're talking to, and what do they care about? And how do you put what you are interested in accomplishing into their world in a way that they will accept what you want? And I think the environmental community has a problem with that. Here in Hawaii, we have a habit of sending our members of Congress off to Congress and then forgetting about them because they're out of sight, out of mind. And so we frankly just don't know how to you know, interact and utilize and communicate with our members of Congress as well as other states where it's more immediate. You're home more. You know, I just don't get home as much as other parts of the country. I mean, I'm home more than you might think I am, but I'm not home as much as somebody from Maryland or even California. And so I try very, very hard to affirmatively outreach. So I write every state, you know, department head and deputy head and you know, county government, and I've got my outreach lists of interest groups, and I try very hard to, you know, not just accept that as a status quo, but to break that down. But I do find that in Hawaii, there's not an institutional check on the box for what kind of the federal government do. Because we're out here isolated and we tend to be solving our own problems. So we don't think, oh, well, I wonder if the feds are doing anything in that space, and therefore should we look for a program? Or should we tell our member of Congress that this is a gap that maybe we should try to create a law or modify a regulation? There's lots of creative ways of doing this. Like I could give you, I wouldn't kill you for this information, but I could give you some very good information. For example, I'll take just a little trick of the trade. When you're in a committee, especially the Appropriations Committee, and you are putting the bill together, the obvious thing to do is put money in there, like fund this program to X amount of dollars. But there's another avenue, which is called report language, which is not actual funding, but it's a direction from the Appropriations Committee on how the federal government should spend that money. So let's say that I'm just going to pick an example, although this is somewhat based in truth. Let's say that I want to make sure that a federal program is administered funding in a way that it's going to disproportionately benefit Hawaii. I will request and obtain my colleagues' concurrence to putting in the law into the committee report, which has the force of law in many ways, an instruction. The administration is strongly advised to spend at least half of this money on programs for insular areas of our country. Okay, there are so many insular areas of our country, so something like that. So there's lots of different ways of doing this, but I can't actually apply the tricks of my trade unless I know what the challenges. And by the way, it's my problem too, because I'm in DC over half the year. So I'm not always keeping up with, you know, the intricacies of what's going on. I try very, very hard to do that, but I can't just do it by myself. I don't like have a mind lock with the entire state, county, you know, governments and all the partners. So it's a discipline of communication back and forth. And it's also a communication among all of you to know, hey, if you got an issue, what might the federal government do about that? And what's our resource? I mean, what's our recourse, rather, to how we deal with that? Applies the same rules to incoming protections as California applies to us going out, right? Inspect your baggage, declare anything that's agricultural, you know, that kind of stuff. Have a inspection regime in place. And so obviously that is pretty hypocritical to have that in place for California and for us to accept it as just something that we do without actually knowing why we do it, most people, what the origin of it was. And yet to have to basically have an open door coming back in for invasive species that destroy our environment. And so you can think about passengers, but far more serious would be cargo, containers, airplanes, that kind of stuff. So when I developed the bill, I actually went around the world, which I find very productive, to ask, is anybody else facing the same problem? What are they doing about this? And the most advanced regime in the world is New Zealand. Very accepted to go into New Zealand and walk through a bath of whatever it is that takes stuff off your shoes, and to have containers inspected. So I basically introduced the bill to introduce that regime to Hawaii. It's a hard slog, and this is why. None of which I agree with, but this is the reality. First of all, on a lot of bills, and I have other examples of this, you may want to fix an issue because it acutely addresses Hawaii, but people may not want to open that door to it being changed as to the rest of the country. So in other words, if Hawaii gets to basically preempt federal law and introduce our own regulatory regime, then what's to say Idaho can't do the same thing? What's to say Oregon, and is that worth the effort? So you always run into that argument. And there's a good reason why Hawaii should be treated uniquely, because we're an island. I can give you 3 or 4 examples of how that manifests here. So that's always an uphill battle. And then finally, man, the opposition I get from the airlines, from the shipping companies, even from the federal government, because the airlines and the shipping companies, they thrive and prosper by ease of travel. So they don't want a regime that slows things down. They don't want to be responsible for administering. The federal government departments, they're overwhelmed, and they don't want to take on a new responsibility. So I haven't cracked that nut yet. But I think it's valuable. I introduce legislation for a lot of different reasons. Obviously, I introduce it to get it passed. But even if I don't think it has that much of a chance of getting it passed, I have the ability to, have people like you ask me questions about my bills, right? So it highlights an issue, at least. A government that I don't think was solid. An offer made conditions that were never disclosed. Always kind of ignored as a partner in the Pacific, and yet it's the 3rd largest, I think, source of foreigners, maybe 4th after us. Or now it's 3rd probably. Countries that want to step into the Pacific Islands and help more, but it's kind of not something that they've done. No, but if you've got a situation that you got to get through for a few years, and you look for your friends to help you get through it. And I think that there's a good, solid approach that we can all follow to try to shoulder the responsibilities that we have undertaken with you throughout the Pacific. The other thing that I think is really important, and our Pacific Islands Caucus has tried very hard to follow this rule, is that we don't want to be the United States or anybody else telling you what you need and then funding it. We want you to tell us what you need and then help you to achieve it. And so we have placed a very, very high premium on the survival of the and prosperity, I would say, of the Pacific Islands Forum as your unilateral, multilateral, I should say, organization. I have personally visited the Pacific Islands Forum. I meet with them when they come to DC. We have their strategic blueprint for a 2050 Blue Pacific continent. We took that blueprint and converted it into legislation and introduced it into the United States Congress. So the bills that we are introducing in the Pacific, they're not us thinking things up in the United States. They're what you told us you wanted, and we're trying to convert in those areas. That's the second thing to note. I think the third thing, which is really the subject of your conversation, of your conversations today, and which I think is our toughest challenge in our country, and your toughest challenge, I think, is infrastructure, because your infrastructure needs are great, from your climate change affected shorelines to your harbors to your schools to your roads, et cetera, and that's what you need to advance as a community. And I will tell you very honestly that I don't think our country has gotten this right. Now, China, of course, offers a model, and it's a very tempting model, and some of you have accepted China's model. And that model is, fine, you want a harbor, we'll loan you the money, and we'll build you a harbor that will fall apart in a couple of decades. And by the way, you're indebted to us forever. And by the way, what that comes with is a little bit of influence over your other decisions, such as who you're going to recognize in the world, who you're going to let into your fisheries and under what conditions. And so that's a bargain that is a hard bargain. And I personally don't think that's one that any country anywhere in the world should accept. But your challenge is, if you've got a need, China offers you a model that's not a very good model, but nobody else offers you a model, and that's a tough choice, right? And some of your countries have faced that choice, and you've made that choice. Why? Because you have immediate short-term needs, and you can't really wait around for us to get our act together on that. Now, we're, I think, making good, solid progress. So we have, of course, laws that have been on our books for a long time and are being implemented. The Millennium Challenge Corporation is our number one source of infrastructure assistance to the rest of the world. We've been active in this for about 22 years, including in the Pacific in countries such as Kiribati and Vanuatu, I think it was. We completed the Millennium Challenge Corporation program there. And so that structure is good, and so far that's solid. That's still being administered and funded, and so that's an opportunity for us to utilize in terms of assisting you with your infrastructure. We also have a much more recent law called the Development Finance Corporation. It's supposed to take the place of some of our older, overseas investment bank, favorable lending from an infrastructure development perspective. And that's also doing okay under the Trump administration with a lot of support from a lot of us. But still, if we don't offer you and assist you and work with you in a way that we can work together so that you don't feel you have no choice but to take an ultimately unfavorable deal from our geopolitical challenger, we understand you don't want to make a choice. No country wants to make a choice, right? You want everybody to be able to trade with, participate with, help where you need it. We have a different perspective. We view this as our primary geopolitical challenge, and we have to meet it. And we believe that everybody in this world should care about that choice. That's what we think, but obviously, again, you have the issues you have to work with. So how do we solve your development assistance challenges so you don't have to face these choices, or at least you actually have choices to make that don't, sacrifice your sovereignty and mortgage your future? First of all, I think obviously our country has to step it up in terms of our own infrastructure assistance programs, and we are doing that, and I believe that that's going to happen. But I think back to my point about partners, this is a time when perhaps our country cannot do it all while we're working through our own politics, but we can still do some of it. But where we have to rely, and we do have to rely, and we all have to rely on some of the partners out there that actually are very good at this. And I'm going to go back, for example, to Japan and South Korea. Because these countries, they do infrastructure. And they do it in a way that really works. It's quality work. It doesn't come with the conditions. It lasts. It is affordable. And they are equipped to do this. And so what I want to do, what we want to do, is to try to bring these kinds of countries, Germany does this too, bring these kinds of countries into the Pacific Islands so that they can, we can all do what we do best, to assist you with trying to deal with your needs. There's other areas that I could talk about here, but you're talking about infrastructure. But certainly, you know, I never meet with the Pacific Islands group and I don't thank you for leading the way on climate change in our world, for understanding the consequences of climate change and its actual impacts on peoples and populations, real world impacts, and you have been leaders, and we need you to continue to lead, because while our country is going through our own, you know, revisiting of, I don't know how anybody can deny climate change, but I got some people in our country that do deny it, because they don't want to make the tough choices. You got to carry the ball, which you've been doing for decades already, places like the United Nations and otherwise. The other area I would just briefly mention is trade, because clearly one of your development goals under your 2050 strategy is far more economic sustainability, especially in the trading area. And one of the things that we're working through with Congress right now is readjusting our trade relationships with you so that they're more favorable, to give you better access faster to our markets. Some of you may be familiar with a similar kind of a trade deal that we did with some of the African countries called AGOA, the African Growth and Opportunity Act. And in that one, we gave preferential access to our market for the products that you export. So, you know, we're not like asking you to like export oil or something like that. It's like, what do you have in agriculture, textiles, et cetera? And so that we can try to facilitate. We're actually putting that bill into Congress by the end of this month. Anyway, I've talked a long time, and I didn't mean to just talk, but I don't want to leave you with something that I've said in 17 ways already, and that is that I don't think our country is going away. I think what you are, what we're all experiencing right now is an internal political discussion that we are working through, a very difficult one, in a very difficult world. The geopolitical challenge of China is not going away. It is not going to get better for any of us magically. We can't plan on China, you know, falling apart like the USSR and all of a sudden one day the Cold War is over. If it happens, great, but I'm not planning on it. And so we have to deal with the situation we have. And so what do you do? What is best for your countries and for my country? And my view of it is that despite these difficulties, we have re-engaged, we're going to stay re-engaged, that our political dynamic in the United States understands that we have to do this for various reasons, and that we're going to find a way through the difficulties that we are facing. And while we're doing that, we all need to work on how to keep the momentum of the last 5 or 7, 10 years going, and that fundamentally at the end of the day, it is still better for all of us to hang together in the Pacific over time. So, back to you.